Welcome to Uncopyable Women in Business. I'm Kay Miller, also known as Muffler Mama. I've been the #1 salesperson in a male-dominated industry, a successful entrepreneur for over 30 years, and now my mission is to help you build a business and brand nobody else can compete with. If you're ready to break out of the pack and create your own uncopyable advantage, stay tuned. My guests and I are here to help. I am excited about my guest today, Madeleine Lambert. Madeleine is a mom of 3, entrepreneur, and the director of marketing and sales at Originality.AI. After selling her first company, she's dedicated her career to helping creators and marketers navigate the new AI-driven content world. She speaks at conferences across the globe and is passionate about inspiring more women to step into leadership, take risks, and build the life they want. Madeleine, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
It has been fun chatting with you a little bit. You are an entrepreneur. You threw out kind of at the end of our conversation that you also own brick and mortar, a couple bakeries, which how fun is that? But we're not going to talk about that now. We're going to talk about AI. Wow, it has exploded onto the scene, and you actually sold your content marketing company and started this AI company. So why don't you fill us in on that part of your journey?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess I can start back to like 2016 when we launched our content marketing business. It was called Content Refined.
Content Refined, okay.
Content Refined, yeah. So that business was a content marketing business. We worked with clients to create high quality content that would predictably rank on search engines. So we did a lot of research on ranking factors that went into content that would actually perform well on search engines. And we really proceduralized that process in hopes that it would result in delivering really high quality ranking content to clients. So that was kind of our business model. And it went really well. Like we launched it in 2016. We were able to grow it substantially. We ended up getting to a point where we had 50 staff, tons of content being delivered on a monthly basis. And yeah, we really scaled that business over about 5 years. And then, it was, I guess, 2020, 2021, where we started to see all of these generative AI tools starting to hit the scene. So we saw initially the paid one, software like Jasper AI that were
we used Jasper AI in the beginning.
Yeah, so did we, and it was great and phenomenal, and we were able to train it in specific voices, and we were intrigued by it, but we also saw the waves coming, and we were like, wow, content validation is already such a difficult thing to prove to your clients. You already have this massive checklist of things that you need to check off that quality assurance list to make sure to basically validate your content to your clients anyways. And
so let me just stop you a little bit, because we kind of segued into that. And I want to make it clear that that's what Originality AI does. It checks content, checks plagiarism, checks accuracy, I suppose, and all of that, right? So that is the purpose of this company.
Yeah. So Originality was born out of the need for a robust quality assurance check on content before it gets published. And so in our content marketing business, that was already such a difficult thing to prove to your clients. And so when we saw this additional threat, like the surfacing of generative AI, we were like, wow, this is going to get really, really, really hard. And this is going to blow up our industry. So we decided to sell it at that point. And we were really happy that we did, because, the destruction that generative AI has had on content marketing businesses has been pretty catastrophic. So we were very, very lucky and fortunate that we made that business decision.
AI, exploded AI has been around forever. I remember one of my college buddies studying it back in the 80s. But of course, it hit the scene, in the mass market, 2019 really, right? Or 2020-ish.
When it, started to gain sort of like public awareness almost, where people were like, oh, this is, and like accessibility to most people, right? And so that was, the turning point for us. So then we started building Originality.AI, which originally we kind of had already started to build the foundations for it because we were using Copyscape, which is a plagiarism detection software that has been around forever. And we were getting frustrated with it through our own usage of it. So we're like, you know what? This is an archaic software. Let's create like a more modern one. So we had already started building that. And then AI, generative AI, started to sort of hit the scene, gain popularity. And we are like, wow, what if we were able to build like an AI detection tool? Because like we know that this is going to be a problem. We've seen it firsthand in our own industry, especially like near the end when we were selling, like our clients started to turn a little bit in terms of like, hey, was this written by a human? Those were questions that had never been asked before that they were starting to ask us. So we knew that this was going to be like a huge problem. So we're like, hey, what tools do we use right now to validate content? We use like grammar and spelling checker like Grammarly. We use content optimization tools like Surfer SEO. We use plagiarism detection software like Copyscape. What if we create an AI detection tool and then create a one-stop shop for all of these solutions that we know creators and publishers are going to be needing and using in order to publish their content? So that's kind of where the idea came from. And we started building that in early 2022.
Okay. AI it's such a blessing and such a curse. I mean, really now you have to use it to be competitive. As I mentioned, I use it a lot for research and researching podcast guests. It's been so helpful, but content generation is something different. And I've become familiar enough with it that I see some of the traps, like we talked about, the verbiage and the patterns, but still, it's really hard to tell. So I think your service is very useful for content creators. What are some of the scenarios that you help people with?
Definitely. So there's a number of different use cases for originality. So all the way from like the solo writer contractor that lives in Bangladesh to like some of the largest publishing houses in the world. And so the use cases vary drastically. However, what we're seeing, like the largest sort of like enterprise usage would be publishing houses as well as like large marketing agencies using it to validate that their writers aren't using generative AI on their clients' work.
I thought it was interesting. I listened to, as I mentioned, one of your other podcast interviews, and it's still not 100%. Just like you mentioned a medical test, or so many things are art and science and intuition. And you said it's not possible to catch everything, but I'm sure you catch a lot.
Totally. And that's kind of, I think, where the frustration and like the mistrust with tools like Originality have come from, because it is a predictive tool. It is another AI. It is something that has been trained against massive amounts of data, and it's going to give you a pretty good idea at scale what's AI and what's not. But if you're looking at it on like individual basis, like per article submission, it can get it wrong sometimes, and it will get it wrong sometimes. It's like mathematically impossible to get it right every time. And that's just, unfortunately, the way that these tools work. It's not plagiarism detection where it's binary, like it either is or is not. It is a predictive tool, and any AI detection software that claims to be 100% accurate is lying to you. And that is something that people need to be aware of. And so, we encourage, especially in like educational settings, we really encourage people to use it as a data point, but not the only data point when making big decisions or punitive enforcements against students, because we know that that's not the way that they should be used, because it will result in people getting falsely accused sometimes.
I do want to talk about your service that you offer. And I know you have a subscription or you can pay by the month to use this. And we'll put that all in the show notes. But, a lot of us listening, I would love to have some tips. I know this has turned SEO upside down. It's turned authenticity, which is, such a buzzword. And it's so ironic because when we're using AI, that's copyable and, our brand's uncopyable. So do you have any things on a basic level that we can be aware of as we are creating content using AI?
Definitely. So I think the biggest thing, first of all, to lay down the groundwork, like Originality.AI, like we are not anti-AI. We love AI. We celebrate AI. We use AI all the time in our work, in our marketing work. Like we use it all the time. But we're also very, very aware of the impact that it can have on websites who publish it almost exclusively. We know that Google does not want to reward websites that are using generative AI at scale. We know that they are punishing websites with slapping them with Google algorithm penalties, with de-indexing entire websites. We know that that's happening. And so I think that is like the biggest risk that publishers need to be aware of while they're creating their content. And just make sure that it's not like a strict copy and paste from ChatGPT onto your website, and put some thought into it, put some brand voice into it, and really make sure that it's accurate and factual, because we know that AI is. So those are kind of like the broad things to be aware of, is just add your voice to it, make sure it's factual. Don't be part of the problem with proliferating all sorts of AI hallucinations across the internet. Be ethical in the way that you represent yourself and your brand. And yeah, that's kind of the broad guidelines.
Stand out or step aside. 5 uncopyable moves you can make today. That's the name of my free mini guide. Download yours at beuncopyable.com/K. Now, back to the show. I know that's true on LinkedIn too. I've been hearing that you're penalized for AI. It's just, everything has changed, and you hear bots. Of course, bots have been around long before AI, but the AI comments and things like that. Going back to that's very interesting to know that Google really does penalize AI content. How much do you have to change AI content? Because of course, as a writer, I love looking at something to edit versus starting with a blank page. But how much do you have to change it to get out of that cycle of being penalized?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm not entirely, I don't know what the sort of like percentage of changes that would have to be made to a piece of content. However, the way that we use AI to create content that works for us, that has never led to any, Google penalties because of AI, is we get AI to like help us with an outline of our content, but then we kind of fill in those sections with our own words, make sure that it's on brand, and make sure that we're doing our own research to make sure that we're getting things right and that we're not spreading non-factual information. And so I think that is probably a very, very cautious way to do it, but it has led to a super successful content marketing strategy for Originality.
Okay, well, it's definitely behooves you to do that if you know that you could be penalized, and I don't know how long that lasts or whatever, but yeah, it's worth putting the effort into doing that. So we talked a little bit about, and things are changing so fast. The evolution of AI so far, we both started with Jasper, you said, and then there are so many platforms now. What is your platform of choice? Do you have one right now, or are they good for different things?
I am almost exclusively a ChatGPT girl. I use it for everything. Like I use it for brainstorming. I use it I leverage it to make me think about things that I wouldn't have otherwise thought about. So I'll like jot down my thought process around certain things. And then I'll like prompt it to help me think of different angles. So it really helps me with my like creative process, but I certainly never used it as like a starting place. I always have my own ideas to put in there first so that it can like work off that and amplify it. And that's what works for me.
Right. I know it can be everything from a therapist to
Honestly.
a brainstorming. Now, one thing I don't know, I'm sure you've noticed this, but it's just so chat is raw. Kay, you're brilliant. That's a great idea. So I think you also have to take that with a grain of salt. Do you deal with that with chat, and what do you do to?
Yeah, I love it. It gives me an ego boost all the time. It makes me feel amazing. But yeah, I think that you can use it to like challenge you, but yeah, or amplify you, lift you up. So I think that I agree with you that it can be like overly positive sometimes, but I think that's also not a terrible thing.
With all the negativity in the world, sometimes
negativity in the world, totally. Yeah, feels better than,
I feel like you get me. You get me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do often say, okay, be tough. I want the criticisms too. I do want to talk a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey, but I also, let's see, what was I going to ask now about the AI? Geez, it slipped my mind. I can't remember exactly what that was. So we'll just move on to entrepreneurship, but I might remember it later. So there you go. So you sold a company and then you started a company. Now you have also brick and mortar. So, women are listening to this podcast and many business owners, many facing these challenges. And you have 3 kids too. So what have you learned that has helped you balance that?
Let me think. There's a long list of things that I've learned.
Or have you learned? I mean, it's still challenging, I'm sure.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, I'm at home right now recording this in my basement because I have 2 sick children at home right now, like every other working mom, So I think, where would I start with advice?
And it doesn't have to be a ton of advice, maybe just 1 or 2 things. I don't know. I've heard balance is really a crock. You really can't totally balance everything, but
and you're never going to find like perfect balance, and that's okay. And I think that the most important thing leading up to, I think honestly, having children was like the best thing that ever happened to me from a professional standpoint, because I got pregnant within the first year of launching my content marketing business. And it was a literal ticking time bomb where I was like, wow, I really have to get my shit together here in terms of proceduralizing the crap out of this business so that it can run without me, or else I'm not getting a maternity leave. And I wanted a maternity leave. That's what I did. I had to really, really pull my socks up that year and say, hey, I'm replacing myself within 8 months here. And so how am I going to do that? And so it really, really forced me to get great hires, figure out what my processes and procedures were going to be like, and get those on paper and get people following them and set up weekly meetings with key people that were non-negotiable, so that it was just what we did. And it was how I kept like a pulse of the business without having to be the one operating it. And so those were sort of like the early lessons that I learned and kind of had to learn, because I was like a literal ticking time bomb, that I've carried throughout my entire career, that has allowed me to kind of like level up and take on multiple projects without getting chronically overwhelmed, because I have sort of that like mental procedure in place to say, okay, what do I need to do to replace myself at every step? So it's just like allowed me to get into like high growth areas in my life quicker.
That's a good point. The saying, the task expands to meet the time allotted, And when you don't have all those pressures, I don't have all those pressures. And sometimes I'm not as efficient or effective as probably you are. Like you said, ticking time bomb. This baby's coming. So,
with her. Yeah.
yeah. So you systemized as much as you could? Is that what you think would?
I systematized every aspect of my day to day and made that a habit. And made that a habit. And as soon as I nailed something, I was like, okay, I don't need to do this again over and over and over. Like hired somebody on Upwork to do this task that's going to take me, a few hours a week, just offload it to somebody else. And so the quicker and more comfortable you can get with that, and the quicker you can relinquish some of that control, the better. Yeah, sometimes things are going to break, and that's kind of beyond your control. Some people are not going to show up. Some people are going to drop the ball. But if you're having those weekly meetings, you're going to catch those things quickly. Things aren't going to fall through the cracks without you noticing. If people have to report all of these little KPIs every single week to you, and they know that that's coming, you know that that's coming, you can absorb a whole lot of information in a very short period of time when you have that proceduralized. And so I think that is something that I would preach to people to learn how to do. Yeah, replace yourself in everywhere that you can or everywhere that you want to, so that you can prioritize the things that you want to be present for. And I have never missed one of my kids' Christmas concerts. I've never missed family vacation. I have never missed anything that I truly wanted to be present for my kids. And that's because I have these systems in place, and I have people that support me when I don't want to be the one to do payroll. Those are the types.
Right. And so that's great. Do you created these, what we call SOPs, I suppose, standard operating procedures. And I have a part-time VA, so I know you have full-time employees and a team, but just to the point, you don't have to have a team to delegate things. And, a lot of VAs are in the Philippines. That's where my lovely Rochelle is, and she's a lifesaver. So, and it has also, that's a great point. It's forced me to list the steps in each thing that's done, and so that she knows what to do. And of course, delegating also means you have to let go of maybe the way you would do it. I don't know if that's hard for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
absolutely.
This is going by quickly. I want to know, as we close out, kind of what would you, with AI, as you said, reshaping content search and digital trust, what do you think that we need to do, the business owners, to stay ahead of the curve?
Stay ahead of the curve. I would say what I see a lot of business owners doing when it comes to AI is kind of they're in their head in the sand a little bit about what's important. I'm probably, as a marketing professional, I'm probably also guilty of this to a certain extent, but what you've known about SEO for all of these years is kind of a golden truth, and you feel like you're the expert because you've been doing it for so many years, right? But the truth is our industry is being absolutely annihilated right now by AI. And it's up to us to understand how that's actually impacting SEO, how it's impacting business, how it's impacting, small business, large businesses, online businesses, brick and mortar businesses. And it's up to us to understand how to optimize for it and not shy away from it, not bury our head in the sand. So listen to podcasts listen to all the podcasts. Take everything with a little bit of a grain of salt, because it doesn't mean it's absolute truth just because you're hearing it on a podcast. Be critical about what you're listening to. But I think educating yourself and learning as you go is really, really important, because it is changing at such a drastic pace that things that you learned yesterday are not going to be the same things that you're learning tomorrow. And don't bury your head in the sand with the changes that are happening.
So is there a way to explain kind of where SEO is moving? Because you used to be able to load keywords into content, and apparently that doesn't work. Yeah. What is the best way to do SEO? And without doing all that research, do you have any 1 or 2 points for us to pay attention to?
Yeah. So I think that LLM visibility, everyone talks about it now.
What
but
is
it
that?
a LLM visibility.
Oh,
So how
large,
are
like,
you,
okay.
yeah. So how are you as a brand going to pop up and be referenced and cited in large language models? And the only way to do that is to like in SEO, you used to be able to just like promote the shit out of yourself on your own site. And you used to be able to just like rank for all of the keywords on your own site about your own brand. And that was kind of enough to pop up in the top of Google. But now you need other people talking favorably about your brand in order to be cited in large language models. And because the more sources that large language models have to reference from that kind of repeats your brand message, the more likely it is that's going to get syndicated into a large language model and you're going to get cited. So places like Reddit are really important for you to be mentioned on in a positive way. Places like LinkedIn, places like Quora, Wikipedia, the news. So like our digital PR strategy is like robust. We spend a lot of money on digital PR and on creating really great original data studies with proprietary data that we get from our tool. And we create a story around that data and basically pitch it to the media to pick up and reference us. And then then it's just like more of a chance that you're going to get cited on within some of these large language models. And we're seeing that Google is seeing less click-through traffic because AI overviews gives you the answer right on the first page. And so how can you optimize your content, your brand to be proliferated like everywhere on the internet so that gets picked up in an overview? And so that, I think, are the things that are going to become more and more important. And so if you're looking at a marketing strategy for your business, for your brand, start expanding out, getting referenced on other platforms, getting other brands to talk about you, doing a lot of co-marketing. Those are going to be the important thing moving forward, I think. But who knows? It might change tomorrow.
Well, but that's helpful because, you're talking on a big scale. And like I said, you have a big team, a company that does this. But even us as business owners, entrepreneurs, we can build cohorts or build groups where we support each other and start that process. So that's really good to know.
Yeah. You have to be careful with how you do it on Reddit. You don't want to come off as overly promotional because Redditors are absolutely savage and will call you out on it. But you can subtly drop your brand in there and have people talk about it. And it's really impactful from a LLM visibility standpoint.
Interesting. Well, so tell us how we can take advantage of your service, Originality.AI, and where we can find that.
Yeah, for sure. So we have, you can go to Originality.AI, where you can have sort of access to our app, but also all of our studies that we've worked really hard on to sort of educate people on how SEO is changing because of content. So we have this Google study that you can follow along. It has a live dashboard that we update on a month-to-month basis to see hey, how much AI content is ranking in the top of Google. And so you can kind of track that over time, which is super fun. So we've got a lot of really cool interactive studies that you can follow along, or you can join our newsletter by signing up for Originality. You can sign up for a free account. You'll get our newsletter where we share a lot of interesting industry tidbits.
Well, that's great. Great to have a resource like that. As you said, everything's changing so quickly. So, that's a great way to stay on top of things. So Originality.AI, I'll put that link in the show notes. And that's been a lot of great information packed into half an hour. So Madeleine.
Yeah, that went fast.
That went really fast. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Uncopyable Women in Business. If you enjoyed it, please follow, rate, and review the show. And be sure to visit beuncopyable.com/K. Always remember, be uncopyable.